And now, from Pensacola, Florida, it's Within Reason with Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin.
All right, welcome to Within Reason, another sterling attempt to decipher the truth from all of the misinformation. Bob Kerrigan and
Bill Rankin. And both of us can't be right, so there's got to be some untruth here. And you decide who's the biggest phony.
You decide?
Oh,
they decide.
Well, I'll decide.
Oh, okay. Well, tonight we're going to talk about Amendment 8 and the grand cash grab by all the Republican hustlers who are in public education, including the entire Bush family, from what I recall about his derelict brother and others. It is a little harsh, just a tad harsh, but it's true about the Bushes. They've always wanted to take money away from public education for their buddies, and we'll talk about Amendment 8. And Bill, I know, has some strong feelings on the uproar in the Middle East.
Yeah, I do. And we've also got this tonight, if I got it right, is the rollout of the T-shirts, and you have to take the majority of credit or blame for the T-shirts when they show up.
It was a high honor. In fact, we could go, if the crew is awake in the other room, we could actually put on in a second here a picture of the T-shirts, and these T-shirts have.
There it is.
There is I think that is, according to the author, I think that's the front of the shirt, if I recall correctly.
And certainly that's not meant in any negative way.
Oh my goodness, look at the reverse of this thing. Speed trap in the red light district. That's not very complimentary, is it?
But what it means is the Gulf Breeze is unique. I mean, they're standing out by themselves and having red light cameras, which are offensive for a lot of reasons. Because you get snitch letters.
Could we build a big bridge, in our new bridge, build it over the top? You know how sometimes they'll build it over the top of a ghetto or an area that's economically depressed so that there's no hope of it coming back? You could build a bridge right over Gulf Breeze. Just go, and people could drive over the bridge and like toss out a beer can or something. You know, just like hey. Here's what you caused us to build here, as a bridge over your crappy little town. It'd be kind of neat. It'd be kind of a nice thing to do.
And why shouldn't we go through Gulf Breeze just because it's a speed trap?
Well, it just not only a speed trap, but it's like going back to the 50s in terms of the governmental kind of operation of Gulf Breeze. It's very archaic and old-fashioned and very parochial, very protective of their own little fiefdom over there. You know, it's not a bedroom community. This is kind of like a prison near. Adjacent to the greater metropolitan area of the city.
I mean, they wouldn't let you buy a house there if you wanted one?
Oh, you could.
Maybe not now.
Not
after all this.
Well, not now. I couldn't buy a house there, and I think if you pass all of their tests of occupancy over there, and I won't go into any more depth about that. It's pretty obvious to everybody who's been through that little town that you might be able to buy.
Listen, if anybody's got enough money to buy a house over there, they'll sell it to you. I wouldn't be all that worried about that.
It's a wonderful place to go to if you like that sort of thing, and some people
I'm sure a lot of our viewers have had the experience that a lot of people I've talked to about the red light cameras heard about. You get a letter in the mail, and it says either pay up or snitch on whoever was driving.
We've been through that.
We've been through that.
You took a strong stand against that, and then you folded at the last minute.
Yes, it cost me 2 trips to Tallahassee and a few $100s.
And then you caved.
No, I didn't. I never did cave.
You did.
I refused to accept it. I said, I'm here because I want to be heard about this. We heard. And the hearing examiner was just this great guy, and I really hadn't laid the foundation for anything.
But then
he said, I'll go ahead and take it under advisement. You don't have to pay anything and see what the courts do about this. And I said, I really appreciate that. I'm done with it. I've made my point. I got to make a speech in front of a room full of people, which is always good.
2 trips to Tallahassee.
2 trips.
And a speech.
Yeah.
And then you wrote and paid the ticket.
Yeah.
And thanked them for the cameras.
No, I didn't thank them for the cameras. But everybody involved, the hearing officer, it was just terrific. He was a very fair guy.
Did he apologize for the little city?
No, this wasn't the little city. This was Tallahassee.
Oh, Tallahassee.
The city of Tallahassee has red light cameras.
Oh, they do, yeah. And so Gulf Breeze and Tallahassee are very similar. One's a state capital, and one's a something else, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And their only similarity apparently is they have red light cameras. Is that right? I mean, are there any other similarity between the two?
Why isn't Gulf Breeze the county seat, you think? I mean, that's where...
Because all the
if it's based on having a high opinion of yourself, it'd certainly be the county seat.
A lot of the old counties like this have the
inland.
Have the inland. Yeah,
they're on the old Highway 90.
Yeah, and because I think they were afraid that there'd be a hurricane and will wipe out the whole city or something, so they moved it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you go down the old Highway 90, that's where all the county seats are.
Well, I have some latest stuff here from Harper's. Are you ready?
Sure.
Well, this is very disturbing. We joke around a lot, but here's some things that are most disturbing to me. Chance that a death among U.S. service members is a suicide. What percentage?
It's a pretty high percentage. I don't know what it is.
20%.
Yeah.
Among military-age members of the general population, it's 1 in 20. But listen to this. Yeah. There's a portion of the service members who are under the age of 25. 1/3 of the whole force, under age 25. Yeah. Of those who commit suicide, who are half.
Wow.
Right, under that age.
Wow.
Isn't that alarming? Isn't that alarming?
Well, another thing that's alarming is now your chances of being killed in Afghanistan apparently come from people in Afghanistan uniforms. I say, well, Al-Qaeda is infiltrating it. What are we doing there?
Well, we've asked that question rhetorically many times.
And President Obama has never favored us with an answer.
He has not. All right, this was something I mentioned to you before we went on the air. Percentage change since 2007 in the portion of Spaniards who believe people are better off in a free market economy.
Yeah. Well, that has gone down by a great deal.
Minus 30.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, minus 30.
They mismanage their economy, spend all the money on public services and cronyism and the spoil system, and then say, it's that free market system isn't working for us.
And they blame the free.
Let's have more socialism. That'll help.
And you don't think there were any major deficiencies in their free market system at all?
In their free market system, I'm sure there are. Yeah. In the principle of free markets, absolutely not. It's the only thing that's ever worked.
Well, I know. I think.
I mean, command economies and the government running businesses like Obama wants to do. That doesn't work. It's no good.
Well, you say it's the only thing that ever worked, but it can't work unfettered. Uncontrolled.
No, I don't think so.
No, it can't.
Not unregulated, no, because then you wind up with monopolies, which destroy the idea of the free market system,
of course.
For one thing. Nor, in our enlightened age, is any of us willing to allow, people to starve in the streets or get run over by something and then say, well, you don't have any money, you can't go to the hospital. Just lie there and suffer. Try not to bleed too much. We're not going to do that.
In Cambodia, if there's a murder, they don't do anything unless someone files a complaint. Literally.
Really?
That's right. They just move the body.
See, some people who are so reviled that nobody would file a complaint.
Exactly.
You can murder them at will, like a target.
Like the town bullies. Remember the town bullies that get shot and nobody
files?
Oh my gosh. How about this? Now, this is something you'll have to help us explain. The number of registered Pennsylvanians who may be prevented from voting by a new voter identification law. How many do you think it is?
Really? I don't know, 5%?
1,600,000.
What percent is that? You don't know?
I don't know. That's
a lot. Where does that come from? This is.
I'll get you the.
You're reading from the left side of the page there. I mean, these people are saying there's no voter fraud. How do you know that? How do you know people who are illegal aren't, just getting absentee ballots and mailing it in?
How did you know the next thing I was going to ask you about? The number of documented instances of voter impersonation fraud in Pennsylvania history.
1.
Too high.
Really?
0.
Yeah, well.
0. So the Republicans say, we've got to have this voter identification law because too many blacks and poor are voting.
No.
And they tend to vote Democratic.
Probably,
of course
that's the motive of the Republicans, to cut down the Democratic
How many voters in Philadelphia do you think this will affect?
I don't know.
40%.
Go on.
2 out of 5.
Don't have any ID?
No, this is a portion of voters.
Yeah, but I mean, voter ID means you need some kind of picture ID.
Well, now be careful.
And 40% of the people in Philadelphia don't have it?
The problem is it's a state-by-state determination of the type and nature of, quote, identification that you need.
Well, that's right. It's a state issue.
I don't know what Pennsylvania is, but it's...
That sounds... I mean, that, you know, is that...
It's not a left wing.
They must be getting faxes from the Obama campaign, putting it in there for you to read like it's some kind of objective stuff. Is that it?
Now here's
that's just... It's hard to accept.
I'll follow up and give you...
Because generally speaking, the voter ID, they allow driver's licenses.
A lot of the poor don't drive.
Okay. But don't you have to have things with your picture on it to get some government services?
You get a utility bill if you need it for voter registration. To register, you have to register with some kind of identification of some kind of thing from.
And then you just walk in and say, I'm that person that registered. But then they got to take your word for it.
But here's what I want to. Of all of the things and problems we have in this country, why is there this concern, this heartfelt, total commitment by the Republican Party to clean up the voter registration rolls, when the latest information we have, which came from some agency of the federal government, went to Texas, and I know the head guy in Houston has said, this is so preposterous on its face, they sent these notices to all these people who were alive and said, our records indicate you're dead, and unless you respond, you can't vote. And he said they found endless errors and confusion. But my question
is, for one thing, if it's the Obama Department of Justice, I think it's suspect. That's just for openers.
Yeah. Okay.
And two,
yeah.
I agree with you that we have to suspect that the motives for all these Republican legislators is to suppress the vote among the people who are likely to vote Democratic. I mean, that seems pretty clear.
Sure. It's the same thing. Yeah.
The motive, but separate the motive from what it is. Requiring people as a condition of voting to come up with a picture ID doesn't seem that harsh, really. When in Florida, I know you can go get it for free or no cost. Just get an ID. Just prove to somebody that's who you are, not just. You know, Joe Smith registered. I'm Joe Smith. Well, how do you know?
Okay, I'm going to tell you something.
I'll tell you.
All right,
I swear I am.
You live in the poor. Let's just assume hypothetically you live in one of the poorest sections of the city, Philadelphia or whatever, and half of your neighbors are either arrested, in prison, or regularly stopped by the local police. Okay, and someone sends you a letter and says you've got to go get ID. And you have to have this certain identification to show up. Yeah. Wouldn't some people say, I think I'll just kind of blend into the background because I don't want to be high on anybody's profile.
Well, that is a good point. Yeah. But I remind you, you have to go back no further than the Civil Rights Movement, when the blacks were disenfranchised as recently as, say, the 60s, maybe into the 70s.
Right.
And in a lot of Deep South communities, they couldn't vote no matter what. I mean, they'd show up and wait in line to register to vote, and they'd have all the proper ID and stuff. It didn't matter. They weren't going to, under one pretext or another, they're going to want them to allow them to vote. And these people were willing to suffer all kinds of terrible things for the right to vote. The people you're talking about are not willing to suffer whatever hardship you have to go through to get a free ID card. Come on. So the remedy is not to rail at the government. Yeah. I mean, all the people say, look, this is an important right. Do what you got to do. We'll put you in a bus and drive you over there to get your ID.
That's a decent argument. That is that you ought to have to assert some effort.
I mean, if I were the spokesman, I am obviously not the spokesman, for, let's say, the black community, I'd say, they're not gonna push us down. We'll just gather everybody up, and we'll go and we'll get our ID cards, and we'll go vote. It'll make us vote more.
It isn't just, I don't think we ought to focus just on the black community. I think this addresses the elderly and others who are largely dependent on government services and government benefits, whether it's Social Security or Medicare, whatever. But they are more likely to vote Democratic than they are the hard-nosed Republicans who want to take everything from them and put them out in the street.
But
I mean, that's a Republican view.
If you divide people up into age groups, us old people vote.
Indeed.
Which is why we're getting all the good stuff from the government.
Some of the old white people vote, but I'm saying a large number of elderly people, nursing homes or whatever, who are dependent on government services are more likely to vote Democratic. And so the Republicans don't want them to vote.
Is that true?
I think it is true. That's my view.
Did you make that up?
True. Well, I just sort of shot a fact or two out there. That seemed logical to me at the time. I mean, we generally don't embarrass each other on this program.
Of course we do. That's the whole point of it.
Okay. All right, I want to go back to...
With respect, respectfully.
With respectfully.
You know,
right.
I like the guy say when we're in front of each other, very respectfully. Now, I know he's doing this with good motives, but it's a total lie, and it's all wrong.
That's why lawyers like to say that.
Thanks for being respectful.
Yeah, very respectful.
I mean, I said that with all respect.
Respectfully submitted, he's a dirtbag. All right, now, this is something I know that you probably will not agree with, all right? Percentage of Americans who believe Obama would handle an extraterrestrial invasion better than Romney.
The percentage of sane Americans who give that a moment's thought has got to be pretty small. Would Obama handle an extraterrestrial invasion better than Romney?
I'm just asking
I got to assume that he'd handle it equally poorly, because an extraterrestrial invasion is likely to be in a form that it's impossible to A, recognize, or B, cope with.
Yeah.
So, you know, and if somebody asked you that question, would you say, please do not consume another second of my time, I'm hanging up?
Well,
who's going to be best able to deal with extraterrestrials?
A lot of people participate in these polls to help the people that are conducting the polls. I just asked you what percentage. If you don't know, you could say, I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you care?
A little bit, not much. I'd like to hear it.
65% think Obama would handle it better than your Republican guy.
So he's got a better share of all the nutcases who are worried about an extraterrestrial invasion.
Did I tell you what I found in the Book of Mormon? Did I discuss that with you?
Yes. Yes, that was pretty interesting.
It was.
But when we get to you want to segue to that now? We've got.
No, I don't. I want to answer something else here. All right, hold on just a second. Date on which Harry Reid said Romney, quote, couldn't be confirmed as a dog catcher, unquote, if he didn't release more tax returns. You know when he said that?
No.
July 12th, 2012. Mm-hmm. But here's the next one. I'm giving you this. Mm-hmm. This is a big gift to you, okay?
Well, thank you.
The number of years of his own returns Reid has made public.
No.
Zero. How?
You know, Harry is safe. He doesn't have to run for office, so he just said any scurrilous thing to embarrass. You know, the level of our politics. First of all, do not yearn for the good old days, because the good old days are actually worse than that. I mean, they would just accuse politicians of having illegitimate babies out of wedlock, and you know, just anything they could make up they'd accuse them of. And we're actually a little better now, but it's pretty scurrilous. Would you confirm Harry Reid for anything? I mean, if Harry Reid came and said, I'll mow your lawn free, would you let him do it? I wouldn't.
I'd do it quicker than that wacko you've got that said a woman can't get pregnant when she's raped. That's your
not
guy.
My wacko. I never said that.
You know what? He
did say that.
Okay.
He's running for the Senate as a Republican.
Aiken, I think his name is. You know what's troubling?
He did say that.
You know what's troubling about your political position?
Yeah, you can't get a grip on it.
I can't. Every nutty thing the Republicans do, you say, I'm not a Republican.
I'm not a Republican.
I'm something else.
I am. I'm a libertarian. I have a card. I have a card. It cost me $25.
You claim you're a libertarian, but you and I had a discussion before we went on the air, and I think I really conclusively established that you're not a libertarian. That's
because I'm for a social safety net?
No, that's on this Amendment 8 issue. I mean, that you are all for.
Well, that's
Well, we'll talk about that.
The Amendment 8 is, it's arguable.
We'll talk about that
My position is nuanced, something that Mr. Kerrigan's going to try to ignore.
Well, I don't know that you call that. We'll see how nuanced that is when we come back, okay, about that. But now, did you want my Book of Mormon revelation now or later?
Well, I think we ought to do that in the context of our discussion about religion, mocking religion, and all of that,
so
we got to have that, because that's topical.
Okay, well, we only have a minute before the break, so we won't start that. But when we come back, Bill is going to give us his view on the embassy attack and the death of one of our ambassadors and the failure, well, whatever, of the Egyptian military and other comments about it. And then we'll talk about the bigger picture of the conflict, and it's raging right now. By the time you watch
come
this
back, because
program,
in contrast to our usual idea where we glance at something and just launch, I actually did some research.
Well, I'm very interested to see what you found, but because I'm sure it's going to be a very balanced view in respect to the Muslim world and the Muslim. It's not. It's not.
No.
Do you give them any kind of a nod or a consideration or anything?
I think in many ways they're no worse than Christians. How's that?
We'll be back in a minute. We have to reassess this. The mission of the program. We have to have a confidential discussion. We will return here maybe in about 60 seconds.